That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Weil.
And a certain movie that we know is officially old. That's right. It's the Aladdin 30th Anniversary Retrospective Podcast. Ooh, boy. Yeah, so obviously, guys, this is a big one. We missed out on it by about a week. You know, what do you do? That's what happens when...
Technically 4 days.
Right. But, it's Thanksgiving and everything. So, big one. Obviously, Dragon, this is, we did the Great Disney Ranking podcast. And this was your number 1 Disney animated film. It was my number 5. We have Z and K in the channel. Says, I tell you, nice to be back. Imagineer gentlemen, nice to have you on the show, whoever you are. Happy to have you on the chat, Z and K. Happy to have you. All right. So yeah, this is just a formative movie for everyone. I imagine this is literally, for me, it was the first Disney movie to come out in my lifetime. Because Beauty and the Beast had already been out when I was born. That was out like a couple months before I was born. So this was technically the first Disney movie of my lifetime. So I very much feel like I am an Aladdin baby by all intents and purposes. I have very, very distinct memories, early childhood memories. I honestly want to say this is probably the first movie that I ever watched from beginning to end. Like, hands down, I gotta say it was it. Like, very, very formative. So obviously we got a lot to say. Dragon, I'm going to pass it to you because this is this was your number 1 after all.
Right. Yeah, remember, if I recall, I think it was between Aladdin and Tarzan for the number 1 spot, but fundamentally I could not put Aladdin at the top. It was...
I was the one who was bold enough to have like a Tarzan style pick with Treasure Planet as my number 1.
Which also had its anniversary this month.
It did.
Two Musker and Clements movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, so Aladdin was always my favorite of the Disney Renaissance movies. It was always one of the absolute just iconic magic ones. I mean, this is like honestly, Aladdin best represents, I feel, the hallmarks and magic of the Disney film. Everything clicks together. It's got flawless animation. It's got great music that advances the story. It's hilarious. It's very, while hilarious, it's very pathos driven and has a heartfelt story at its core. I mean, I love these characters, these relationships at play, Aladdin and the genie and their friendship, Jasmine and Aladdin, the romance going on there. Then, of course, you have Iago and Jafar with kind of your comedy duo, kind of your straight man comedian kind of pairing in terms of, on the side of villainy. It's just, look, we get, in terms of the nostalgia for Aladdin,
we could literally do a podcast all day just talking about the nostalgia and not even talking about the movie.
Exactly.
That's how deep the nostalgia is for all of us, I'm
Precisely.
sure.
It was very much of like the tomes and VHS tapes, which then, of course, got
the DVD Dragon. We could literally do a whole podcast just on that DVD, and it.
I know, I was about to get to that, but
yeah.
Yeah, and of course, after that, you think, how can it get any better than the days of VHS and the building, almost like a fort or like a brick wall of VHS tapes of all these Disney movies? Like, how could it get any better? We're going to come up with the advent of the DVD, and not just the DVD, the special edition DVD, the platinum edition.
Oh, and, man, the platinum editions. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with it, but the platinum editions were the ones that I collected, man. I had almost all of them.
And they had like Gilbert Gottfried as like the moderator, essentially. I know technically Leonard Maltin was he was the guy hosting the event, but still, the fact that Gottfried was kind of the man behind the scenes in the green room, and it was wonderful. So, point me a lot of fond nostalgia for Aladdin. And of course, you have all these sorts of things like the animated series and then the direct-to-video sequel. So, Aladdin is very much, debatably, one of the most important Disney films for a variety of reasons. But at the very least, I always feel Aladdin got overshadowed by The Lion King, and I've always felt, to me personally, I always felt it was a little unfair. I think Aladdin really put in the work, and I think really outshines The Lion King. But The Lion King was big for the time, and it was, I don't know, look, Lion King obviously good, but to me, it never holds a candle to Aladdin. That's just for me personally, because when I look at Aladdin, I think it's one of the most satisfying Disney movie experiences you'll ever have. Again, it gives you a little grab bag of everything you want when you sit down to a Disney
The
feature.
Lion King definitely has a couple wonky plot elements to it.
It does. Where I know Aladdin, I just feel kind of satiated in everything that I've gotten from. Is like, man, this is what every Disney movie should be. Yeah.
All right. So let's see really quick. I'm gonna shout out.
Wait.
I'm gonna shout out Atomic Beast and Sonia in the comments. Happy to have y'all. Z and K says, "Oh, you mean the DVD that advertised the newly discovered song that was like they did with Beauty and the Beast and Lion King DVDs?" Yes, Dragon. And what was that song?
Proud of your boy.
All right. Okay, Jacob. By all means, take the floor, sir.
I might have told you guys this story before. Like, I don't know if I said it ever on air, but I probably mentioned it. I know I mentioned it to Dragon. I don't know if I told you, but like I was more familiar with Aladdin with the animated series first before the TV series.
Funny.
The TV series before I was more in the TV side of things before I got into the films. So I was like so it's like I was more familiar with Aladdin as a TV series more than I was a movie. I mean, I was probably vaguely aware that the movie existed, but I never watched it until many years later.
Wow, that's crazy, Jacob. I've never that's honestly kind of mind-boggling.
It's like I said,
that's a very unique way to approach this thing.
Where's Castellaneta, man? There's no truth in this art.
like I said, I was watching the TV side more things more than the animated films. Like I watched Timon and Pumbaa before the Lion King, for example.
Okay, I'm just gonna put this joke in here for monkey's sake. I could totally see someone watching the Little Mermaid animated series first and then going back to watching the movie and being like, "There's no dinosaurs in this movie." All right. Anyways,
I mean,
that was just for you, monkey. Go ahead.
Honestly, I do remember watching the Little Mermaid series too, but I don't think I retained it as much as I did Aladdin and other stuff. So it's like,
although weirdly enough, I think the Little Mermaid series is the one that is like the most unhinged and off the wall to go back to.
Fair enough, but anyway, I was more familiar with this. That's how I got introduced to Aladdin through the series, and obviously this series is obviously very good, and we're not here to talk about that. But obviously, going back into it, I was like obviously kind of astounded by it. Like, first of all, I mean, I was obviously first confused why Iago was the bad guy. Was one of the bad guys. Yep, why he was one of the bad guys, but like I said, I obviously fell in love with the movie as well. I would honestly rank it in definitely it's one of the best of the Renaissance, and as well as one of the best of the entire output. So, I mean, I'm not going to try and go into another spiel like Dragon did because I'm basically repeating all the same points. But I like to say like it's one of the best soundtracks in the entire franchise. I think it's like how Ashman and Menken, and then Menken and Tim Rice at the height of their creative powers here.
Absolutely.
And rewatching it, I even rewatched it like on Disney Plus. Like it is like some of the best 2D animation that Disney's ever put out. So, in my opinion, like the snake transformation, it's just like, oh my god, that is like amazing.
Totally.
So like,
I also feel like it has by far this is like the cap system at the height of its powers, I think, as far as the animation goes.
Yeah.
I mean, all the colors, the colors, just all the different techniques they combined into it. Like obviously, like the CG for the Cave of Wonders is kind of showing its age, but obviously at the time it was like something nobody'd ever seen before. So it's like, I mean,
there's an antiquated charm when you look back at it, even if we have surpassed it. There's like, man, that looks good, especially for the time.
So for the Cave of Wonders especially, that might have been the first. I very much remember when I was a little kid watching it, like a tiny, like 2-3 years old. The Cave of Wonders is always one of those things that came up right at the beginning of the film. And I was like, oh man, this is a big people movie. Like this is scary, because I was used to like shit like Scamper the Penguin and stuff like that before Aladdin. Like I said, Aladdin was literally my first real movie, and I feel like the Cave of Wonders was kind of like that scary threshold that I had to get past.
And to be fair, this movie is frankly quite more intense than a lot of other stuff as Disney has put out.
It's a really rich-blooded action adventure movie. It really
what's
is.
funny though? They when they submitted, they were expecting to get like a tone it down notes in terms of censorship from the ratings board. It's like, no, you're all good. And it's like, well, really? They were kind of hoping for like, wait, we're not edgy enough.
It's like there's like a scene that literally shows blood.
Well, it's kind of snake blood though.
Yeah, I mean that is true, but still blood nonetheless.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
So, I mean, God, this is there's a lot to go over here. Dragon, I assume you want to talk some background, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so as you probably guessed, the core story of Aladdin, based on 1001 Nights.
Well, actually, it's based on a story from 1001 Nights.
All right, fine. It's a story from 1001 Nights, but yes. And it was so essentially this story was pitched because back I don't know if you guys probably remember this, but in case the audience doesn't, you ever watched the documentary Wake and Sleep and Beauty? They kind of talk about this Gong Show period in the Disney studio in which people pretty much any Tom, Dick, or Harry from Disney, they could basically pitch their ideas, so they get the gong if it was like a no-go or if it was a stinker. Otherwise, these ideas might be pitched for development, which many times they get shelved. Other times, like, okay, we're actually gonna put them in development.
Mm-hmm.
So Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, they pitched 1001 Nights essentially, and it got shelved for Beauty and the Beast. So Beauty and the Beast, they were put onto Beauty and the Beast. And Disney, of course, after Beauty and the Beast, they were bustling in success. So, basically, while things were going and while things were kind of getting re-energized, while they were working on Beauty and the Beast, it's like, hey, what was that Aladdin idea like so much? It's kind of paraphrase the Stanley Spider-Man story for a bit there. It's like, what was that 1001 Nights idea that we like so much? Bring it in. So essentially, Menken and Ashman, they pitched Ron Clements and John Musker to direct it, and to kind of help them kind of really get the ball rolling story-wise and kind of bring it to life, kind of put a little razzle-dazzle on it. And it was essentially, it was a very pure thing that we kind of have with Pixar all the time, where it's like, let's make a movie that we'd love to see, which is the best sense to make a movie, in which that's where they're kind of assembling things and really they're directing a lot of their creative energy. They gather the top animation talent. I'm talking the biggies, guys, the biggies. We have Eric Goldberg. This is the first movie Eric Goldberg did.
Yeah, I mean, just Jesus Christ, talk about a big, like, it's like a rock star opening debut for Eric Goldberg. It's like
a live aid of animation.
Yeah,
he did have like bits in the industry before this. Just like first time. This is his first time like leading a character, and what a character to lead!
Oh my God!
So Goldberg essentially was the superstar. They've been angling to get Goldberg involved in Disney because he'd been doing commercials, kind of like Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter. They did kind of ads in the industry, and they basically like, hey, we saw those ads you did. Why don't you come to our side of the fence? And he did. And essentially, he was primarily doing Genie, but he also was very much he was kind of godfathered a lot of things. He kind of was very much kind of directing a lot of the animation overall in terms of stylistic stuff as well. For example, the S theory of design, which then led to the Al Hirschfeld of it all. That was Goldberg. Goldberg basically saying, looking at Arabic, there's kind of like a little kind of S curve to the language. It's like, what if we applied that to the building designs and Agrabah, which basically makes everything look inviting and it's like very touristy. Like, oh God, I want to go down every alleyway of Agrabah.
Well, it's clear that this movie definitely propelled him because he basically directed the next movie he worked on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was Pocahontas.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, not the movie that was after this, because that was The Lion King, but
yes,
he basically came onto this and was like, you should direct a movie.
Yes. So Goldberg, of course, the biggest thing, of course, with the S curve idea was like, let's kind of bridge that into Al Hirschfeld, who's like one of his artist heroes, in which this guy very much, if I recall, Hirschfeld, he did a lot of things, like a lot of theatrical posters and play programs and stuff, and he did a lot of artwork for the New York Times. I think it was the Times. It's either that or the Wall Street. I think it was the New York Times. Regardless, he was
definitely that or the New Yorker.
Maybe that's the New Yorker. Point being, he was a very recognizable.
I'm pretty sure it was the New Yorker.
Okay, fine, New York.
Hey,
so
I'm cultured.
Okay.
Or I could just be wrong, Jacob.
I
can look it up.
I could be wrong too.
I just think I remember it from Fantasia 2000.
I could be wrong. I mean, I could be wrong too. But go on, Dragon.
All right.
Point
Sorry.
being, Hirschfeld's style, if I recall, the big appeal of his style is like he never broke. At least for the majority, I think his whole signature style was like he could do all of it in one line, as in like he didn't have to break the lines because everything was so curved and interconnected.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so yeah, this basically kind of it kind of blended into the S style, like the continuous line effect and kind of rounding things, and was very much the authority on how to draw the genie and bring it to life, especially given he's a character who does impressions. So Hirschfeld's style was very much doing kind of artistic renderings of celebrities and everything. Anyway, so you had Eric Goldberg, you had the great Glenn Keane. You had you had Randy Cartwright. The man behind the man who did all those behind the scenes videos for Wake and Sleeping Beauty. That Randy Cartwright. Anywho, so of course, just great lineup of the top animation talent.
And Dragon, you were right. It is New York Times for Al Hirschfeld.
Also, Andres Deja. That was the guy I was looking for just now.
Oh yeah, Deja. Yeah, big one.
Like,
Deja was on this.
He did Jafar.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
It's like I do know a little bit behind that one though. It's like while like Goldberg and others like supervised all of the other characters that make them consistent. Like, Deja actually designed Jafar away from there to like be more of a contrast.
So in this '90s period, there of course is another infamous thing that's going on here. We have Katzenberg really feeling his oats in a few projects that do end up being some of the most acclaimed animated films of all time.
Katzenberg.
We have another Katzenberg story here, but only I think it's more in the positive here with Katzenberg versus what happened with Toy Story. But the similarity being Black Friday. So Black Friday, not the holiday just passed, the other Black Friday. Black Friday is kind of known as Doomsday in animation during animation production. Essentially, Black Friday is what happens when you present the story reel and things just aren't working. It's like Doomsday in terms of like the project may be in serious jeopardy, might be shelved, might be canceled completely, which happened to Toy Story under Katzenberg's terrible story notes, and was kind of here, but thankfully kind of salvaged by Katzenberg because it all worked out really well thanks to Katzenberg's notes. So essentially, they present the story reel. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was overseeing this production rather closely, after Eisner kind of like turned it away at first. And he said, "That's a lot of movie." That was his note after watching the story. He cryptically said, "That's a lot of movie," and then he walked out. So Tucci walked out. Anyway, so basically, it was communicated to our directors like he hated it. That's what that means. That means he hated it.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a lot of alterations. They had a lot of cuts. The three major ones being we lost Aladdin's mother, which means no proud of your boy. That went to the wayside. They aged Aladdin up to help with the love story because it looked like she was falling in love with a kid. So they were going for Michael J. Fox and then Jeffrey Katzenberg being the very uber celebrity kind of guy at that time with the Disney company. Make him Tom Cruise. Which, if you look at Aladdin, there's a Tom Cruise look to him.
He very much looks like Tom Cruise in the model. Absolutely.
And of course, lastly,
most
importantly, this was helped by the writers who came in. They brought in at this point Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think it's Rossio. I think you're right.
Yeah, so Ted and Terry here, they were brought into the project, and they had the very important story note of, okay, we can't do the infinite wishes thing because that takes away the drama of any situation. I know it's in the original story, but we got to make it dramatically 3 wishes. So, again, never really done with
They literally wrote the rules, the modern rules on genies.
Yeah, they did. Because think about it. Before this, every time you saw a genie, like think of I Dream of Genie, infinite wishes. It's always been that way. And
the only one to do that was when did the DuckTales movie come out?
Oh no! Oh my God, you're right. The DuckTales movie did have the 3 wishes.
Well, I think that wouldn't the DuckTales movie? What year did the DuckTales movie come out? Was that 80s or 90s?
I mean, or at least the early 90s.
I want to say it was before this. I really do.
I mean, and even then, I'm guessing that it's not the first movie to do the 3 wishes thing.
All right, fine, but
DuckTales the movie.
It was certainly the first one to popularize it, though.
Yeah,
it came out in 1990, so probably.
Oh yeah, it's a couple years. Yeah, a couple years earlier.
So at least came out when this movie was in production.
Well, at the very least, it was probably the first time we've done in the sense of like, hey, let's take the original story is very well known for being infinite wishes, so we're going to make a major change that way. So that was kind of the first time we've taken. Aladdin's been adapted a lot of times, usually unsuccessfully. This is the only one that's really worked. At least the only one that's had stay power, let's say. Anyway, so point being, the Three Wishes versus Infinite Wishes thing was huge. When they were writing the genie, they were very directly writing it for Robin Williams, or at least a Robin Williams type. So they were thanking God on their knees that Robin Williams said yes to this. Now, very infamously, well, let me say this. They kind of sold him like the way they sold Tom Hanks on Woody on the Pixar side of things here. They basically showed him they showed Robin Williams an animation test, and Robin was so charmed by it. They animated to his stand-up, and he was just so absolutely sold on it. It's like, oh, I have to be a part of this, man. This is amazing. He was laughing hysterically at like the whole schizophrenia bit with the genie. So, anyway, so
they were the original YouTube Storytime animators.
Sure. Anyway, so Katzenberg, very infamously, he violated Robin Williams' very sincere agreement to playing the genie. Like, I don't want you to oversell this on. Essentially, don't oversell it on Mork. Don't oversell it on Robin Williams as playing the genie. Like, just have him be like a fun surprise in the movie, or at the very least, like, the point being, they as we know, they oversold the genie. The genie was the huge selling point of the movie, and Robin was not happy about that, which is why we had Dan Castellaneta in the TV series and the first direct-to-video sequel. And also the other thing too is that it's speculated. I don't know how to confirm this. It's speculated that at the same time Fern Gully was in production as Aladdin, at least in terms of production, and the belief is that Jeffrey Katzenberg, he did this as potentially as a screw you to Robin Williams because he tried this tactic before with the whole Ants and Bugs Life thing. He tried to bully things away so Prince of Egypt could come out, and that landed on like, hey, I'm going to literally take your Bugs movie, which originally was what it was called. I'm going to release a movie called Ants unless you rearrange your release dates and let Prince of Egypt come first. So yeah, point being, it was very much like, he wanted to make sure, like, hey, let's just abandon Fern Gully and come with our movie. We want the Robin Williams movie, and he said no. And well, again, that's at least the belief. Regardless, so and as Tiki said earlier, the cap system is already a thing, but is very majorly incorporated into this film, and in fact has, in some sense, one of the first fully caps characters in it with the carpet, who is texture mapped. He's not fully capped, but at least he's a fully kind of like, he's fully animated using the caps to at least put the pattern on the rug. So it's kind of it's a melding of the two. And of course, we incorporate other CG elements and such with the cap system.
And that's how they're able to make him so detailed.
Exactly, because they could not draw that pattern constantly without going insane or doing like a B movie thing with all the hexagons. Yes. So yeah, that's then a movie goes on to be a huge success, especially on home video, which of course leads to direct-to-video sequels and the TV series and platinum special edition DVDs.
And of course they did patch things up with Robin Williams later.
Thank goodness. And yeah, also for good or bad, because of that Robin Williams situation, we have celebrity voices in animated films, which I think the Pixar side of things has worked wonders. On the other side of things, not so much.
Well, that was a thing long before Robin Williams, though.
Yes, Jacob, but he very much popularized it, though. Like, that was like the big example that did light the fire.
But people like to say that it came up with the idea. It's like, no, it did not come up with the idea. It was far from the first one.
It's not anyone really come up with an idea.
It is the one that I really do think it is the one where it's like we wouldn't have like a Shrek without. I think Shrek was the one where it became the industry standard, but this, it wasn't like the first one, but I think it was like, I don't know. I think it inadvertently became like one of the first ones where it was like a big push. I don't know.
Yeah.
Although you could argue that they were doing that as far back as the Jungle Book, though. Well,
that's the thing, though. I'm saying it's not the first time they've done it, but I'm saying in terms of we did it purely for the gimmick of like, let's not just get a guy who can sing a song. Who's known for his musical talent, and him to basically get there for a song. It's like, hey, let's cast a very popular talent, and that has just kind of become the way it's gone. The genie very much lit the fire. Anyway,
like I said, I feel like the genie lit the fire, and then Shrek is the thing that like caused the fire to burn out of control.
Which is funny enough 10 years later, so it's more so it's really more on Shrek than anything else.
No, it is. I do blame Shrek more for the current state of the
I'm saying it's a carryover from what It's a carryover from Katzenberg's practice, which obviously resulted in a Shrek.
So long story short, blame Katzenberg.
Exactly. So
Katzenberg.
Yeah, I think I did that earlier.
I know.
Anyway, so we have the
Katzenberg.
and then more infamously, we have the remake in 2019. But we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the good stuff.
Are you sure? Let's just talk about the remake. Let's just break down the remake scene by scene. Let's just do that instead.
It wasn't.
So we start with Will Smith. He's in human form and he's got his wife and the kids. And what do you guys think of them spinning Arabian Nights into a story that Will Smith is telling the kids? What do you think of that choice?
I thought that was pretty interesting.
All right, I'm kidding. Let's not do that.
I'm answering your question seriously. I thought it was an interesting take, considering and brought back what the original plan for this movie was going to be.
That is true, but we're not. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to actually pose a good talking point there. That wasn't my intention. All right. Anyways, we have a lot of comments from Z and K. I'm sorry, Z. That was a really long background, but there's a lot to go over, so it's fine.
And Dragon gave us the very condensed version.
I know. No, I'm aware. Yeah, I've seen all the DVD bonus features. All right. So let's see. So Z and K says, Dragon, can you clarify this? He said, I thought it was Aladdin they were working on, and Beauty and the Beast was last minute rush job for Alan and Howard.
Well, I mean, it was proposed before Beauty and the Beast, and then they were thrown on to Beauty and the Beast. So I mean, I don't know how.
From what I understand, it was like they weren't really doing it. They might have been working on another project at the time, but Beauty and the Beast was in production.
Yeah.
But considering like the early non-musical versions of Beauty and the Beast were basically not going so well, so they brought in Menken and Ashman to help it along.
Yeah.
And
all right.
And obviously and as you guys have probably learned from Howard, that unfortunately kind of didn't help, considering Howard Ashman's battle with AIDS at that point.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Also, I was going to bring this up, but it's being brought up by ZNK briefly. He mentions the DCA show, which yes, there was the Aladdin musical, which is really good.
Such best theme park show of all time. So good.
What's really great about that too is that during the big feature on the DVD, they shot, I believe, where the DCA show was. Which is great.
And of course, Dee Dee Mango of Steven Universe fame was one of the original Jasmines in that show, and I'm like 90% sure I saw her live because I definitely saw that show in its opening year.
Just the same way I'm like 90% certain I've met Scott Snyder while he was in a Buzz Lightyear costume.
Actually, been quite a few actors and voice actors that got their start at Aladdin.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah,
and not to mention, like, even as he also went up, the Broadway show as well.
Yeah,
the Broadway show I really want to see.
Me too.
Yeah,
especially again, another star-making genie role, James Monroe Iglehart. That basically propelled him into fame. He actually won a Tony.
Absolutely, yeah.
He even won a Tony for it.
All right, and ZNK also points to Cliff Edwards, and that is a good point. Like, Cliff Edwards really is the granddaddy of all the celebrity voices. He really is. Let's see. Shrek was the gasoline that spread the fire. Indeed. I'm sorry. Do we know who should have been Bing Kingsley or at least Patrick Stewart? What are we referring to?
I don't know if he's
probably Jafar. Because the background is like they wanted Patrick Stewart to be Jafar, but due to scheduling conflicts with Star Trek, he couldn't do it.
Ben Kingsley would have killed that. He would have freaking.
He would have. Honestly, if they did Aladdin live action back then, Kingsley would have been the man.
And Patrick Stewart has gone on to say that, like, having to turn down Aladdin is like one of the biggest regrets of his career.
he got Prince of Egypt though. He's doing just fine.
And can we? Let's just say though. We're just glad we got Jonathan Freeman, because Jonathan Freeman's a killer Jafar.
He is.
And Vincent K's in the chat. He says both Genie and Iago aren't alive anymore, and indeed that absolutely does bring a. It's funny because it's probably, arguably, besides like Emperor's New Groove. I mean, I would say as far as like the classic musicals that Disney's done, Aladdin is probably the one that is the most comedic, and yet, it's always going to have a little bit of a shadow with, with the Robin Williams thing and now Gilbert Gottfried. It's
not to mention Douglas Seal too.
Yep.
But yeah, it is really like, because Iago is obviously like the big face of the franchise, post movie, like as far as like the sequel, like the two movies that came after, they like Aladdin 2 and 3 are very much like almost equally Iago's movie as it is Aladdin's movies, especially
no,
the second one.
2 was Iago's movie.
Yeah,
3 is not Iago's movie. Come on.
That's fair.
Yeah, the King. It's more like Aladdin and Kasim's movie.
Yeah.
No, you're right. But anyways, yeah, two big faces of the franchise that are no longer with us. It is indeed, kind of, it does mark the franchise with a little bit of a somber tone looking back. Let's see. ZNK says the Broadway show is a fantastic meddling of the finished movie and Howard's original treatment. Ooh, interesting.
A lot of the deleted songs that Howard Ashman wrote, I assume, were put into the Broadway show.
ZNK also says I'm talking about the remake specifically when it comes to live action, when it comes to Jafar. So, yeah.
Well, they probably wanted to keep the casting consistent.
Yeah, Kingsley could have been pulled off, though. It would have been older, but he would have been pulled off.
I think the one thing with Kingsley was that it would be, they very much could not do the whole, like, marrying the princess thing.
I mean, it was creepy in this movie. It could have been.
It was.
I mean, remember, we have, like, the great line, you're so old.
I mean, the thing I'm referring to is, like, that they were trying to cast, like, Middle Eastern actors, and that's my thing. That's probably why they couldn't.
I think Kingsley's kind of. I don't know. Kingsley's.
I mean, technically, he's like British Indian, but
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's kind of.
What about? I would go with maybe like a Riz Ahmed or something.
I mean, maybe. Anyway,
wasn't he in the movie?
Was he?
I mean, I don't know. I could have sworn he was.
I don't.
I mean, if he was probably playing like one of the Sultan's guards or something, and that's not really that big of a role. Like, I think he's a talented enough actor that he really could have pulled off Jafar, but
let me see.
But he's so old, says ZNK, so it would have worked.
He's so old. You're so old.
Indeed.
All right.
Yeah, you're right. I was mistaken. He wasn't in it.
Anywho, shall we?
Yeah, literally a half hour into it, guys. Like, I honestly, we have to kind of like think this through, because if we wanted to, we could very easily just sit here for like 3 hours and just go beat by beat through the whole film. So
let's do it.
How do we want to approach this for real?
I mean, we don't really have to discuss the plot or anything, because I mean,
because honestly, it is one of those things. I'm sure that all three of us have this. Maybe not you, Jacob, given your unique circumstance with the TV show, but Dragon, I'm sure that you and I both have this, where literally every single moment, every solitary moment of this movie evokes some sort of childhood nostalgia for me that I could talk about.
I mean, I saw when I was a child too, but
okay. Well, I'm sorry. You said much later, so I didn't know how much longer the much later was. I wasn't sure if
you overemphasized much, didn't you? Just be honest. Did you?
Not really. I mean, I wasn't really like I saw it before I was.
Well, when you say much later, Jacob, I'm thinking you saw it when you were a teenager or something. That's why I had as big of a reaction as I did.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
okay, maybe I did put in too much emphasis on much, but
all right. So the point being, I think just the salient point that Tiki's making here is perhaps, we want to avoid going beat by beat because we couldn't make a meal out of any solitary moment from Aladdin.
Like, for example, the literal fries that the genie vendor makes out of the little thing. That's a very specific. It also makes I'm sorry, what does it make?
I'm trying to.
Coffee and Hootie Maker also makes julienne fries.
It's a
yeah. It's like, I don't know, like it's one of those things, like even something is obscure as that, it's like, oh, I remember that. Anyways,
that's like, so, will not break, it broke.
So what's great about the just overall, to summarize things here. So the opening with the Merchant and Arabian Nights, it's great because it sets the tone in every way you need to, kind of like the movie is. It sums up the movie as a whole. What I like about it too, which is
have you guys heard the original lyrics for Arabian Nights?
Yes, we don't need to repeat them.
I mean, It didn't need to be changed either, but oh well.
Well, it was pretty bad, I think, honestly.
Anyway,
I'm kind of glad it was changed because we don't really have a what makes the red man red kind of situation.
Yeah,
even then it was not that bad compared to that.
It wasn't that bad, but I still think it's insensitive, honestly.
I don't know. I mean, anyway. Point being, what you have in this opening, you get the splendor, you get the music, you have Robin Williams doing some improv, which apparently, again, it's funny that this movie again does have a few similarities with the Toy Story films to a degree. In which Tom Hanks, he's going in there, they're giving him blind props to react to. In which case, Robin Williams, similar thing, only it's Robin Williams, in which he's going to improvise for an hour over all these hilarious things you could say. These things, of course, like Dead Sea Tupperware, still fresh.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's like so much improvised dialogue and everything. It was basically exempt from any screenplay Oscars.
Yeah,
I can see that.
So the original idea was really interesting because if you look at the guy, you can kind of see it. Original idea is that the merchant is supposed to be the genie in kind of a human appearance, like he's shapeshifted into this guy. That's why he's wearing blue and red. If you look at him, and he's voiced by Rob Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's just, in general, so Aladdin, something I want to talk about with this movie just in general, because this bleeds into everything.
Yeah.
I think the pacing and the transitions hold up.
It's wonderful.
Think of it. It's almost like it's very much in the philosophy of, the Brad Bird philosophy, the Native American philosophy of, we use every part of the buffalo in terms of if we're going to transition to something, we're going to we optimize the use of our 90 minutes so well, in which it goes such a long way, and we have to fast track a relationship in 3 days because of her upcoming birthday. We have to sell that, and it also helps they don't necessarily get married at the end of this movie. That really does help. But it's the fact that, think about it, everything flows so well, in terms of like how we pass off the story baton between things. We have like Arabian Nights, which kind of sets the tone. Then we have on
a dark night where a dark man waits for a dark purpose.
And of course, the line's introduction with One Jump Ahead.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's the prime example I'm getting at here. So you have just that the Cave of Wonders, which then transitions to a diamond in the rough to there's our diamond in the rough. We found him already,
totally.
And everything kind of flows that way. In which we think Aladdin is dead, and then we check in with him. No, he's not dead. He's just he was in the jail. He's in the dungeon. So the whole movie has like a great flow like that, which again in 90 minutes, I think it's very economically it all works in its favor. So speaking of, let's talk about our title character in the Fez. Let's talk about the monkey. No, we're not talking about the monkey. Let's talk about Aladdin, but also by proxy talk about the monkey.
Really quick, I want to shout out Slasher Fred. Really like that name, by the way. Says, I think that's what makes this movie a classic is that you have these two characters who feel so trapped in their own society. You have a rich girl and a boy off the streets. And yeah, absolutely. I do think there's that relationship that forms, as I'm sure we'll build into. I definitely think it's one of the better, in spite of it being a fast track Disney relationships, it is one of the better Disney relationships, I think.
Yeah. It's I mean, of course, the class system at play works really well. I love how we build up to the diamond in the rough thing, and then we see it in practice. So many times in movies with characters, especially our lead characters, we now have the stupid Mary Sue thing going on there, in which we say, are they really that special? Is there anything really? But think about this, though. We see that Aladdin actually is special. We demonstrate this in a great, not only just the great opening song, which tells us everything we need to know about him, but in the actions that happen after the song, in which he shares the bread with the kids and then he defends them from the prick with the whip. And then
it's not every day you see a horse with two rear ends.
Exactly.
And then we go right into the reprise of One Jump Ahead.
Yeah, but also I love that we kind of transition to that the aftermath of that guy coming out from his failed courtship of Jasmine. He's the prince that goes in there and he comes out with the underwear in Raja's mouth.
I've never been so insulted. Good luck bearing her off.
Jacob, I assume you're familiar with Twisted, right?
The
Wicked parody starring Jafar from Team Star Kid.
No.
Oh man. It's awesome. And Prince Ahmed is it's basically like the whole thing is it takes the perspective. It's like Wicked except with Jafar, and it takes the perspective of Jafar as like the misunderstood hero, and Prince Ahmed is the villain, and it's amazing. Anyways.
So we're charmed by our street rat protagonist here, and that he's basically just stealing to steal for his next meal. He's not doing anyone any harm. He's just trying not to die starving on the street. That's all he's trying to do.
Gotta eat to live, gotta still eat. Tell you about it when I got the time.
If anything,
Okay, Dragon, you want to talk about good food animation? It looks like the most freaking delicious bread I've ever seen in my life.
Imagine if you had an amalgam Disney restaurant that has all the food animation in there, and you could order the bread from Aladdin. Yeah, let's get that. Okay, let's see. We have the ratatouille from Ratatouille. They have the pie off flambe. Let's get that.
Goofy movie pizza.
They got the gray stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Try the gray stuff. It's delicious.
Well, they probably wouldn't put the bread from Aladdin because
I think the gray stuff is the only thing you can actually get specifically.
They'd probably be afraid to put the bread because they'd be afraid people would be stealing the bread.
You know, it'd be great though if they offered monkey bread.
All right. Anyways.
I like monkey bread's good. I haven't had.
I know, right? That's the thing. You have Aladdin themed monkey bread.
I haven't had that in years though.
See, and when they serve it, it has like a little tiny fez you can keep.
Monkey bread's delicious.
It is, yeah.
Not as good as banana bread, but it's still good.
Anyway.
All right, let's see. So Slasher Fred says, I've noticed that this movie has many similarities to Raiders of the Lost Ark from Frank Welker, who voiced Abu, also voiced the monkey.
And the big lamp sequence, which is very directly inspired. They did pull directly from Raiders, and they actually told Spielberg about this. He said, no, it's fine, guys. I stole a whole bunch of stuff for Raiders, so it's all cool.
ZNK says, Iago puts Aladdin's Mary Sue / MacGuffin status so perfectly. That's him! That's the clown we've been waiting for!
Anyway.
Yes, ZNK. I actually think ZNK puts it perfectly with the food animation and why the bread looks so delicious. It looks softer than baguettes really are. That's
Yeah.
Dragon, don't you think so?
No, it does. Yeah, it doesn't look
It's literally, it looks like a baguette crossed with like a really good like sourdough bread.
Like, what would you call it? Would you call it like a French bread baguette mix? Or no, it's the same thing. Never mind.
It's almost like a baguette, like the interior is like a croissant.
Maybe, yeah, I guess that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay, but seriously, we're joking about the food animation, but obviously the giving the bread to the starving kids is like a freaking awesome.
That tells you in like one moment why he's the diamond in the rough. He's like, yes, he's charming as a charmingly, but that's not why he's special. The fact that this guy he did all this whole eloquent song and dance, this whole jaunty tune for our amusement, and at the end, he doesn't even get to eat the bread. He gives it to the starving kids.
Okay, so I am actually really, really glad that Vincent says, dude, this movie ruined bread for me because no bread I ever witnessed has looked. Oh God, that makes me feel really vindicated that I'm not alone.
I think that's not the only good-looking food animation in this.
Oh no, it's not, sir.
We have reams and reams of baklava, man.
Not to mention, try some of column A, try all of column B.
Exactly.
If you guys ever listen to the soundtrack in the opening, there's a lyric that not. Oh yeah, we mentioned this Slasher Fred already. Yeah, where they cut off your ear if they don't, if they hate your face or if they don't like your face is the lyric. Yeah, we mentioned it. It's I personally think that I'm glad that it got removed. Not necessarily because I think it's terrible, but just because I know that in today's climate, people would be calling it out, and it would kind of put a black mark on the movie a little bit. So I don't know.
I mean, in all honesty, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm still one to think that the line didn't necessarily need to be changed in the first place. But I will say that I definitely think the new line flows better in the.
I do too. Yeah.
Where it's flat and immense when the heat is intense. I think it just flows better.
It does. You're right.
Man,
okay, Vincent K says.
Then again,
I'm sorry, Jacob.
And maybe that's because that's the version I first watched and the one I'm most familiar with.
Same. Yeah.
But
Vincent K says if Brad could talk, they would say Aladdin gave the unrealistic body standards.
Anyway, I think we should move past the bread thing just a little.
Are you sure?
Dragon, we spent 30 minutes talking about ice cream.
I know, but we're already 30 minutes. If we started with the bread thing.
Okay, one more bit Seriously, I really do like the bit where Abu like takes the one chunk out of the middle and then reluctantly hands it over.
Yeah.
All right. So with the one little, or I'm sorry, I always want to say one little spark, and it's one jump ahead. With one jump ahead,
One little jump ahead.
the reprise. Am I the only one who just thought that? I know that it's supposed to be like, look at him. He's a poor boy and he's got this poor squalor house. That looks like the most freaking cozy hideout ever.
It is. It does look very Club Ford-esque, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great location in Kingdom Hearts too.
Absolutely.
And plus, it is like a great view of the palace.
It does.
So I don't know. That was one of my early childhood memories of this movie. Was just like how comfortable his house looked.
So speaking of the palace, let's flip things. Let's talk about the Jasmine of it all here.
Yeah.
And Jasmine, how great of Disney? I think Jasmine's one of the all-time great Disney.
I would wager to say, I would honestly say, for my money, she might be the best one.
Right? I mean, that's.
I think it's maybe between her and Rapunzel.
Rapunzel is great. That's the other. That's the competition.
Animated by Mark Henn.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So apparently, a lot of their mannerisms stuff came from his sister. Actually.
Yeah, and I'm sure you remember this, Jacob. So the whole thing with the sister is she has kids and she dressed her kids up. She makes costumes, so she dressed her kids up as Aladdin and Jasmine, made a Jasmine costume for herself, and it's like a whole. It's adorable.
And of course, along with Jasmine comes Raja.
Yeah. Let's see. I do want to shout out a comment we got way earlier ago from Sonia, who says, "I'm very scared of snakes," and but she also likes Raja. So awesome, and I agree. Raja was awesome. Really, really good. Really good design.
Oh yeah, slasher friend. Like in the one jump ahead sequence, I love the scene where Abu tries to take the sword out of the sword swallower's mouth.
You idiots! We've all got
swords.
By the way, that voice I think is like the voice that I associate with Jim Cummings.
Razul.
Yeah, Razul.
I'm just saying that to me is like the most like baseline Jim Cummings voice for me is that performance. You idiots! We've all got swords. It's such a good comedic beat.
I just love the fact that when Abu pulls the sword out of the guy's throat, you can see the guy grabbing his throat.
Yep.
It's like Abu might have just killed a guy.
Yeah, that monkey just murdered that man. For bread. He murdered that man for a bite of bread.
All this for a loaf of bread?
Okay, seriously, like imagine the pain of dying from a sword slitting your throat from the inside of your throat.
Maybe
that is a horrific way to die.
We might be skewing a little dark in our Aladdin celebration here, Joe.
I mean, think about it. Kazim mentioned throat slitting, or like he had to slit through throats to get Scarab.
Yep.
So basically, there's a lot of throat trauma in this movie.
Well, also there is a threat. Like we almost decapitate Jasmine's hand. We almost
decapitate exclusively.
I know it's the head. I meant we almost chopped it.
The funny thing is, if you look at the table, you can actually see quite a few cut marks on there. So he's cut off quite a few hands.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, probably. But where were we talking about again before we got to?
I was trying to talk about Jasmine.
All right, let's talk about Jasmine.
So Jasmine, again, great, possibly the greatest Disney princess we got. She's I love that she's not a sap. If I had to put it bluntly, she's not a sap. She's very, she feels strongly about things. She's, she feels trapped. I love the dynamic with the Sultan. Her father, who's like this sweet old man who's very childlike, but he has like this very real parental concern of I'm not going to be around forever. And of course, sadly, the actor was not around forever by the time this movie came out. So
he's a good leader.
Exactly. So I love the fact there is a conflict here of she's got to get married because it's kind of like a tradition and a law sort of thing, but it's not not in general oh, you must do this. Well, no, you really need to do this, and I won't be around to lead, and you kind of need to facilitate that.
It's like he's not basically he's not doing it out of just oh, you have to do it because it's tradition. He's like you can tell he's not entirely happy about the situation either.
Yeah.
But he's not entirely happy about the situation he's put himself in, or the situation at all. Yeah. But he's just doing it because he wants her to be safe.
Yeah. Also, again, speaking to the animation reference, also Jasmine very pretty. I just want to get that there, man. How pretty is Jasmine?
Very,
Yeah, yeah.
she is.
Yeah. All right. So in her meeting of her meeting Aladdin, when she sneaks out of the palace, you have a crossover of life experience. You know, the class culture that's kind of the culture clash that's going on here.
Can I say one more thing about the palace?
Sure.
I just really love the design of the courtyard with the fountain and then the very ornate bird cage and everything like that.
Of course, the
Oh,
symbolism of she's the caged bird. She lets it go, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. I mean, I just love the fact that how the fact the palace is like 100 times bigger than the rest of the city.
Yeah. I really love like this small animation detail. I love the Sultan. He tenderly puts the bird back in the cage, which is representative of what he's doing. But again, he's not doing it like
totally.
he's like put that bird back in the cage, man. Like no, I'm guiding it there.
Uh-huh.
It's like he gently puts it gently back in.
Yeah. Let's see. So, of course, honestly, one of the great things about Jasmine in general is her dynamic with Aladdin always stuck out to me. Is like when they meet, before they realize that before he realizes she's the princess. They're in the marketplace, and seeing Jasmine go with the flow was always a really great quality with her. It was just something real cute about a princess who had like a silliness that could play silly.
Would the pretty lady like a necklace? A pretty necklace for a pretty lady.
But also, it's the whole like this is my
and-
sister, unfortunately, and she thinks
But
yes.
before that, like her giving away the fruit kind of to the kid, kind of highlights her giving nature as well.
Yes. So, of course, we have the thing where basically Aladdin gets her out of Dodge for that food act. She's about to have her hand amputated, and
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dragon.
she says, Aladdin says, she thinks the monkey is the
Sultan.
sultan. And just see her play around with it. So, let's go to the doctor and like talking to the camel. Hello,
The
doctor.
No, not that one.
See, that's what I'm saying. That guy right there. I just love that Jasmine was down in the clown, man. It was awesome.
You could even tell Aladdin was like, okay, dial it back a bit.
Exactly. So there's like a lot of fun to be had there with Jasmine. She doesn't get enough credit for.
Plus, it highlights our dynamic very early when she like does the whole pole vault like Aladdin. You're like, I'm a fast learner.
Yep.
All right. So I'm sorry. We got a lot of good comments coming in too. Let's see. Slasher Fred is pointing out there's an episode of Full House where DJ's boyfriend is dressed as Aladdin at Disneyland, no less, and it was the same actor who voiced Aladdin, so that's fun.
Do you remember that episode, Tiki?
I do not know.
Yeah, that's actually they go to Disney World and they had this whole they had this event where basically Michelle rubs like
it was, right. No, that's probably the most famous like goes to Disney World. The one crossover that I really do remember with Disneyland specifically was the George Lopez show where they did the Hidden Mickeys thing.
Yep.
Anyways, let's see. And also, Vincent K knows what I'm talking about with Twisted. They do a really good I Want song with Twisted. Let's see. Jafar's a bad bird owner. That's what makes him a villain.
There was a credo in the writer's room. When in doubt, hurt the parrot.
That's very true.
Well, Gilbert Godfrey thought that's what it was.
All right. Slasher Fred says,
and to be fair, he is a bad bird.
If you guys ever watch one of the teaser trailers for Lilo and Stitch, they do a spoof of Aladdin. Indeed.
I believe she leaves Aladdin for Stitch in the Red.
Yes, she does.
and Aladdin's like, get your own movie.
Which he did.
What's really ironic about that is, I'm sure I probably mentioned this at some point during the Lilo and Stitch retrospective, but those ads, like at the time they were coming out, they made me kind of hate Lilo and Stitch because I was like, what are you doing clowning all these classic moments? This is like honestly, I was kind of like rebelling against Eisner's whole, like the Brecht Eisner school of like, the cool, hip and edgy style Disney that. And obviously, I love Lilo and Stitch nowadays. Like, Lilo is just one of my all-time favorite Disney movies. I literally have a tattoo of Stitch. So it's just funny how, like, my first impression of Stitch was like, look at this stupid blue alien trying to muck up the classics.
Well, to be fair, it was because you were afraid to tattoo the little girl on your arm.
I mean, you're not wrong. I do personally more relate to Lilo, but
Exactly. It's just it's the ultimate. Like, I put Stitch on my arm. Well, no, it's because you're afraid to get the package deal.
Although to be fair, I have my tattoo is Stitch and the ugly duckling, which is a very important like personal symbol. So
that is true.
It all works. It all works.
Anywho, so should we speaking of Iago, should we talk about Jafar?
One more thing with the marketplace thing I need to bring up, or else I would be kicking myself if I didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
Another food animation thing.
Yes.
The melon.
Oh yeah.
The melon.
The watermelon.
I don't think it's a watermelon. I think it's just like a what is it? Like a it's just it's not a watermelon.
It's not a watermelon, but it's like a melon of some kind.
Yeah.
It has like the hollowed out like white on the inside.
It looked like a watermelon.
No, watermelons are red.
Well, watermelon would be red on the inside, yeah.
Well, it's green on the outside. That reminds me of a watermelon.
Well, it's not even filled. Like a watermelon.
All right, well, it's a melon. Can we just agree that it's a melon?
Yes, they're eating a melon. They're eating a melon in the marketplace, which does look rather tantalizing.
Yeah, I know it's a melon. That's what I'm just saying.
Yes.
Kind of
no, seriously. I mean, that melon. It's up there with the bread as far as like I feel like I have the same thing with the bread of like no fruit ever looks as delicious as the Aladdin melon.
And I've never had baklava, but this movie makes me want to try baklava.
Indeed.
Yep.
Let's see. Slasher Fred says I used to watch the Aladdin spin-off series. At first, I thought took place after the 1992 film, but actually took place after Return of Jafar. So yeah, hence why Iago is a good guy in that film or in that series. Yes, it is a love child of a melon and a coconut. That's a great way to put it.
Yep, that's about right. Sounds about right, actually.
That is
very accurate, Z&K.
I can agree to that, yes. All right, but Jafar and Iago.
So the plot... Yes. So the Jafar and Iago plot that we have here is essentially, Jafar so well designed and also just so well paired in our voices here with Jonathan Friedman and Gilbert Godfrey, just how they play off of each other.
It's kind of interesting.
Awesome is that little like electricity generating machine thing that Iago has to run.
Well, essentially, it's not. They're trying to generate a storm. So
It's like the funny thing is like Jafar was really going to be like the loud brash one, and Iago is going to be the calm collected one, but they decided like now it'd be better if they switched.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would not have worked if
and perfectly casted again with Jafar, with both Jonathan Freeman and Gilbert Gottfried. Like basically, as far as we've seen, Gilbert Gottfried's most famous roles are birds.
I love the aesthetic of Jafar because he's kind of like a mix of Captain Hook and Frollo. If you look at him,
oh my god, yeah, that's cool.
Even though he came before Frollo,
I'm saying it's retroactively. It's that.
I'm sure he inspired Frollo's design.
Sure.
Yeah, we just like say he has like a great. Well, technically, that's not his introduction, but when we introduce us to Jafar, my most trusted advisor.
My vizier, most trusted advisor.
It's like okay, this guy's definitely evil.
Honestly, I love the.
To quote Jenny Nicholson's Evermore video, "Your Grace, he means you harm."
I love when you distill Jafar down. He is just kind of that not cylindrical, but like the inverted kind of curves. They kind of like go up like a chess piece or something. I love that he kind of like cuts that silhouette, and he moves until he goes full crazy by the end of things. And he's doing like the I forget if it's the Letterman or whatnot, when he does like a little golf swing. But I just love that he's just very kind of he doesn't move a lot, and he's kind of keeping it calm and collected until he really. Invest in the bit. Like, of course, the funniest thing about Jafar to me that I always loved as a kid and I still love today is the fact that Jafar really committed to the plot to get this lamp. He wants this lamp back so far that he inserts himself. He goes undercover as the prisoner, the prisoner beggar guy.
He's one of the more proactive villains.
That's the thing.
It's very much so.
It's just hilarious that he is.
I think that's what makes him like. Scar does have a good presence, and of course Jeremy Irons' iconic performance, but Scar does fuck all in the second half of that movie.
Well, because he already succeeded.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like Jafar, it's like he's much more proactive throughout the entire runtime.
Like, if you watch Lucifer, it's like, what if Tom Ellis just sat around for the whole show? That's Scar. It's pretty much it.
Not really. Not really. But that's beside the point, right?
I know Scar had his big moment when he killed Mufasa, but aside from
Obviously,
that,
yeah.
he's really not doing anything until he fights again at the very end of the
I
movie.
think Scar has the one thing. It's like he does the one really big thing, as opposed to Jafar, where he's like proactive. Like, he might not do anything as evil as killing Mufasa. Like, he doesn't outwardly murder the Sultan. You know, that would be the equivalent of killing Mufasa.
Jacob does have a point that he doesn't really need to do anything after that point, though. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And another thing, like,
well, I mean, I think it does kind of speak to the whole, like what we said earlier, that the Lion King just in general kind of has a little bit of a wonky plot structure to it with that flash forward. Anyways,
no, not really. But again, moving on.
Anyway,
like what I was trying to say then,
Roderick Simba just never sat right with me, even as a kid. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry, Jacob. Go ahead.
Jafar is probably the best Disney villain laugh.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It is very Ren Hoek-esque.
Like,
right.
He's like, and he technically does do something no other villain does. He stole the hero's theme song.
That's still amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the great choices. If we're gonna have to strip out songs and everything, let's just condense it to a reprise that he literally stole. Because what's a villain gonna do? They're gonna steal the
song. That's actually really meta when you think about it.
Yeah,
Prince Ali.
I'm gonna steal everything, including your theme song.
Inadequate jaws. He slaps him.
Gives me adequate cause.
Yeah,
his personality.
So something. Go,
Prince Ali. Basically, he devolves into a laugh that could put the Joker to shame.
Right. So something that occurs to me with Jafar 30 years later, is that I have this interesting read on, at least I think an interesting read on Jafar never really occurred to me before the rewatch here, is that Jafar is very much, he kind of parallels Aladdin. We have to read into this a little bit. I like to think maybe Jafar parallels Aladdin in that he too, given that how well he did that undercover bit, I think Jafar reads to me as he too was a street rat who then through magic and trickery
They definitely did that angle with the remake, and that's like one of the very few things with the remakes version of Jafar that I actually liked.
I think that was like kind of like, like they were going to do it, or like they originally like imagined him that way without really confirming it in the movie itself.
But I like that you kind of fill in the blanks when you see like him as the beggar. It's like, so that's what Jafar looks like outside of like the fancy costumes, and maybe he stars that guy.
Have you ever heard of the golden rule? Whoever has the gold makes the rules. And
oh my god, that laugh, man, that's got to be like the most iconic Jafar laugh. Yeah, like the raspy. Oh god.
But yeah, I don't think it's as iconic as the Prince Ali laugh, but
right. So, well, it's not even really a laugh.
No, you're right, Jacob. That is pretty iconic. You're right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, though. I mean, don't get me wrong. His whole old Meston is iconic and everything, and of course he tried to kill Aladdin. He's like, giving you your reward.
Your eternal reward. But yeah, I like the idea. There's like the slippery slope kind of message there of like if Aladdin, kind of like Aladdin potentially, with the corrupting power of the genie, there could have been a slippery slope there that could have led him to be like Jafar again, because he kind of acquired power, and had he kind of not done something, kind of selfless at the end, perhaps, who knows. So, so of course, Iago, nothing but laughs. I love the improvised gag where he's like throwing all the stuff in their packing,
the guns,
ready to go.
The guns, the weapons, the knives. And how about this picture? I think I'm making a weird face in it.
I love that so much.
Apparently, it made Robin.
I honestly think the beat where Iago gets stuck in the door
I'm stuck.
It's one of the funniest fucking things that Disney has ever put in film. I swear.
And then it's like, but he gets like, oh, how did it go?
I love it when
I mean, that is up there with anything in the Emperor's New Groove as far as just like sheer, oh my god.
I love it when he thinks Jafar is having a meltdown. He's laughing hysterically at the realization of the next stage of his plan, and he just goes down and he knocks on the hat. He says, Jafar!
Get a grip!
Grip!
It's
Oh my god, CK, the way you spell this is just perfect.
Oh,
that oints! That's a
like-
perfect spelling.
You did like, do you know who really loved this movie? Chuck Jones.
well, that's the
Oh
thing.
yeah,
Like, Robin Williams,
Chuck Jones is all over the place in this movie.
the
For
way
sure.
Robin Williams always kind of summarized this film is that it was very much kind of Disney doing Warner Brothers. At least somebody put it that way.
I can see that. I can see that.
forget if it was
I mean,
Williams.
basically, both this and Emperor's New Groove are they're basically doing Warner Brothers.
Slasher thread, yes. In the remake, Jasmine does indeed have a friend at the palace who also becomes the love interest / wife of the genie. So yeah, that's a thing that happens.
Anyway,
yeah.
so Cave
But
of
you-
Wonders, great location, am I right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Cave of Wonders section, I think, is probably the best action adventure that has ever been in a Disney movie.
So
hands
this is the
down.
big nostalgia I have from the movie because just that Cave of Wonders sequence when you're escaping the Cave of Wonders on the magic carpet, and it's basically they filmed like going on.
It is like the motion simulator movie scene.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, they did a lot of research by going on roller coasters. I think
Magic Mountain specifically, yes.
Magic Mountain specifically. And I remember as a kid, you're watching this, and you're kind of like you're sitting there like in your room or whatever, and you're just going left, right, like going up and down.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Like on a pillow or something.
Did you ever do that on a spinny office chair, Dragon?
No, not the. I use the pillow, not the office.
I'm in an office chair right now.
Right.
Like, Abu, this is no time to panic.
Okay,
Start
panicking.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out a piece of nostalgia with this movie that is like, I mean, I could easily do a whole podcast on just this, but the Aladdin video game. Jacob, did you ever play it?
I never had a Sega or Nintendo.
Oh man, well, I played the Super Nintendo version specifically. I honestly think that might be the best movie tie-in game like ever. It's so freaking good.
Apparently, a lot of people like the Sega one better because I don't really know about that.
I think the reason why people like the Sega one better is because Aladdin has a sword that you can use as a combat weapon. But honestly, I like the Super Nintendo version better, but that might just be because I grew up with it. Anyways, but the Super Nintendo version, the Cave of Wonders level, the flying carpet level, as you can imagine, is freaking impossible.
basically, the situation in my like, I had my older brother had an NES, and then basically I family straight up got a PS1 after that.
Oh, that's funny.
It's
kind of like how I skipped the PS3 / Xbox 360 generation. I went from a Wii to a Switch.
So, Cave of Wonders, excellent set piece. Also, I love it as the end of Act 1, at least the way I see it. Kind of ends Act 1.
Definitely,
We're trapped in the Cave of Wonders, and all the great crazy actions happen. The cap system.
If you think about it, this movie, like you said with the pacing, Dragon, it's like roughly 20 minutes of story, and a shit ton of stuff happens, and yet it doesn't feel like, like it's just like plot. It really feels organic. I mean, the pacing is incredible.
It's fast paced, but it's not it's not rushed.
Yeah,
right.
And as Jacob said earlier, I mean, the lighting scheme in the Cave of Wonders is also phenomenal with the cold blues and the intense lava reds and all that. And it's wonderful. And also
and of course the fact that it's alive and Frank Wilker's like you will never again see the light of day.
Z&K says, every time I hear that booming Dr. Claw voice of the cave, it always makes me think how the hell Frank Welker does not blow his vocal cords out.
Yeah, he's doing the full.
He's talented.
He's doing the full Dr. Claw, yeah.
And,
Indeed.
He's also a boo, which
he is.
Like
yep.
You can tell exactly what he's saying as a boo's like.
Yeah. Okay, so
hello. I'm sorry, I sound more like a parrot trying to do the voice, but yeah.
McFly.
So, the magic carpet, I always loved the implied French, because if you look at the magic, I think the idea of the magic carpet was that with the pattern on there, it's like something representative of the lamp inside the Cave of Wonders. So he's a package deal with the genie lamp, ergo, he and the genie are friends. So I love that level to it.
And that's why I didn't set off the Cave of Wonders alarm system.
Basically. And that's why that's why like they're playing chess and they know each other. They've probably been doing this.
Like they're rug band. Haven't seen a few millennia. How about some Tassel?
Tassel. Speaking of which, it's already an hour. Let's talk about the genie. Why not?
I know, right?
Yeah, they were talking about all the characters and moments. Like this is exactly what we were fretting earlier.
Yes. So
it's all good. It's whatever. If this goes on for another hour, I'm not worried about it.
It's not like they were waiting 30 years for this or anything. So,
yeah. I'm really not concerned about it. Like usually, I like to keep these under an hour, but for this, it's a special occasion.
So let's talk about the genie. Of course, that's just Eric Goldberg unbound. I mean, you have like the most phenomenal cosmic power. Yeah, he's a really friendly guy.
Oh,
you can tell he had a field day with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about it. It feels really perfect with the Genius as a character, where he has such a big personality, and they gave him the scale to match that. So it's like, what if we gave Robin Williams the personality, but actually scaled to who that guy sounds like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I love how his scale is kind of like constantly like, he can be huge. He can be about the size of Aladdin if he wants to be. It's all over the place.
He can be a bee.
Yeah, exactly.
Be yourself.
He basically, and his introduction, like coming out like cave, like
Hey,
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
Yeah.
So the one bit that I need to mention about like his intro going through the rules is the whole like, I can't bring people back from the dead. It's not a pretty picture.
I don't like
doing it.
So speaking of which, we had a lot of obviously Robin Williams having a field day with the impressions, which then get into like the animators going crazy. Like, oh my god, we get to animate like all these celebrity kind of impression versions of the genie. It's crazy.
Actually, Martin Scorsese was kind of like actually laughed out loud at the taxi driver moment.
I love the De Niro. Okay, so the De Niro bit is my favorite of the genie impressions, and that and William F. Buckley are my
What about the genie too? I think we should mention this is that I feel like a lot of, not every single pop culture joke lands if you don't understand the reference, but I feel like most of them do. Like the Robert De Niro thing is just funny because he's just suddenly, it's like we just went through this whole song and dance, and suddenly he's like, "Excuse me, did I pick you up? Did I bring you here?
Did you plug my lamp? Did you wake me up? Did you bring me here? And now you're walking out on me? I don't think so.
So you'll get your wishes. Now sit down.
So of course, if you know Taxi Driver, you know the joke. But honestly, as a kid, I never knew what the hell Taxi Driver was, and I still thought that was a really funny beat.
That's my point, Tiki. Even if you don't know any of the references, I still think it still reads as pretty funny.
Yeah, totally.
Like you said, apparently even Martin Scorsese like laughed out loud at that moment.
I mean, the kids love William F. Buckley. Tiki, I don't know what you're talking about. There are a few provisos, a few quid pro quos.
Vincent K, to answer your question, I honestly think my theory is that I think with the love thing, it's probably something he can't do. And then I think with the bringing people back from the dead thing, I think he very specifically says, I don't like doing it.
I'm going to assume in Genies and the millennia that the Genie's been around, there've probably been some zombie encounters when he's tried to do that.
It's like he specifically meant, particularly there are 4 rules of the whole no wishing for more wishes thing, but
yeah.
And then he's like, I can't kill anyone. So it's like, which means he probably either he's not allowed to. So basically the only one we know he doesn't want to do is the
back from the dead thing. Yeah.
I like that there's essentially it's rule of threes all around here. It's like 3 wishes, and essentially I know there's kind of a 4th one lingering there, but essentially three provisos. Like don't do that.
Like that's it. 3, 1, 2, 3, no substitutions, exchanges, or refunds.
Good old Groucho. I think of all the Hirschfeldiness that is in this movie, that's the most Hirschfeldy quality.
So Fred Like Me obviously has some pretty stellar food animation in its own right.
I mean, just to put a pin in the food animation for a moment.
Dragon, no, we have to go through all the food animation in this movie.
I just said put a pin. I didn't say get rid of it. I said put a pin in. Don't be crazy. I want to talk about the song first.
Okay.
Calm down, Dragon.
When has that ever worked?
It'll work one of these days.
All right.
You're one live accident away from being a supervillain.
Anyway, easily, Friend Like Me, highlight of the film, so well sung. Honestly, for me, always huge. Of all probably the Disney song I know how to sing of any of them, like that one and the Dr. Facilier's song. But anyway, it's the ultimate pick me up we need as we kind of re-energize Act 2, because that's the thing the genie does. And Act 1 is pretty much like impressively, and this is what I think Williams was hoping for. You're gonna be sold in the movie, so when the genie stops by, it'll be like kind of like a surprise of sorts. Like, oh my god, the movie gets even better than this. How does that happen?
Totally, yeah.
And lo and behold, it does, and we just see this crazy sales pitch of all the cool things the genie can do, and kind of the infinite possibilities at play here. With all the things he can do, the punch of his hands, the ultimate razzle dazzle, factors being presented.
The old razzle dazzle.
Yeah, and I just love it's basically the most wonderful way you could possibly do exposition and sum up the genie in one song. And that's basically what this is.
The Raz Dazzler.
Yes. Yeah, but yeah, it's also honestly it also kind of conveys that the genie would be the best person to ever play charades with ever. You'd win every time.
So he's definitely be the best at doing the impressions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like almost every single song in this movie is a showstopper.
Oh, exactly. Yes.
But obviously this is like the showstopper. Like this is the thing that like, okay, this is our big Broadway number.
It doesn't just feel like it. I mean, ultimately, this kind of thing. One could say it's probably kind of happened, but it doesn't feel like the reason the songs are so good is like, okay, so we cut out all the unnecessary songs. We stuck with all the really good ones that we needed.
It does, honestly, yeah.
And basically the ones that Robin Williams, the genie, sing are all the ones that were written by Ashman.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And all the other ones were written by Menken and Rice.
Apparently, Prince Ali really took it out of him too. That was one that was like, that was really towards the end for Ashman. Yeah. So let's see. I'm sorry. So anyway, so of course, then we have just of all the tantalizing things in A Friend Like Me. We of course have column A, column B, and a little more baklava.
A little more baklava.
Yeah, column A and column B. That is definitely the big food animation for me.
And considering Aladdin's been starving for the duration of the film, that's a rather
right.
Here's the question though: do you think he's actually able to eat any of that food in the sales pitch, or is that magic food? Does that not count?
It's probably magic. It's probably food that he has to wish for, considering he sucks everything back in at the end.
That's the thing. Here's a question about Genie's magic, though, because you have the thing where between this and it was always the weirdest thing between this and the sequel stuff, where the genie can help with the ambiance, and like when we do Prince Ali, we have all these so many things present us, and we do have some lingering effects of like, okay, so he's a prince, so he needs an elephant. And obviously, the magic carpet is just kind of more of a friend they met along the way. But it's kind of this question of like how much of that stuff sticks around, and like in the sequels and everything. When Genie does magic, is it just pure much like magic that goes away, or like can he do anything lingering with the magic? It's just magic he can do of his own free will,
I feel like we literally cannot overthink this, or else it'll hurt our brains.
Well, anyway, and this movie doesn't really have to worry about that. That's more of like the sequel territory, honestly, in terms of like how the world, the logic works there. But I don't know. Anyway.
I feel like in the sequels, the genie mostly just uses his magic to like emphasize points.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's more of like presentational. So presentation. Right. Sorry, that's the wrong blue guy. Yes.
But yeah, it's like. And Aladdin even shows his trickier side when he tricks Genie out of a wish. Basically,
I love that. That's great. Yeah,
it's like you probably can't even bring people back from the dead. I mean, blood. They can't even get us out of this cave.
And of course, that leads to the De Niro rant, which then leads to like we're gonna basically kind of like use like an airline flight out of here.
It's like yeah, exits are here, everywhere.
Great. All right. Let's see. So. Unless you have any more food animation points you'd like to make on this, well then yeah, I want to talk about the sincerity of the genie. I want to talk about one of the big. So again, we will love laughing at the genie and how darn funny he is. But on the flip side, the element that you and I, Tiki, made quite the meal on with Jonathan Banks, that this movie very much kind of lays the groundwork for. The genie's dream of freedom is an element that was never in the original story. They added for this, and it was the best edition of the film, I think. Just this fascinating, endearing edition of the genie wants to be free because never in millennia has he ever entertained. No one has ever asked him like, "What do you want? What would you wish for?" And only Aladdin, being the diamond in the rough, would that be possible? Yes.
it's kind of like the Wizard, but another key difference is that the original story there were actually 2 genies. And sorry,
But go on.
I'm just saying that's basically there were 2 genies, and they just basically reduced it because it would be too much.
Yeah,
That would definitely be too much. Yeah.
Obviously, until Jafar wishes to be one.
exactly.
But yeah, and as you pointed out, like I don't think the genie's feelings are rarely ever considered in the original story, and adding it here added a bit of pathos to it.
So that's the thing. That was always one of the most wonderful things about this movie. They strike up like this genuine friendship between them. It becomes a buddy movie in Act 2, which is like you didn't see it coming, and it's like I thought it was going to be the kid and the monkey, but no, it's the it's.
Well, the kid and the monkey already had their bonus movie.
Exactly. They were buddy
movie. And he even becomes kind of a confidant later when he's having girl problems.
Yeah.
It's like you got to be a straight shooter. Do you got it?
So it's great. This funny, all-powerful character has this very sincere human side to him. It's very more so this very sincere human desire amongst him. Like all this phenomenal cosmic power, live in space. Where you look at the pity, you pity the poor genius. Like, oh man, he's got to stay in that little lamp.
It's like he wants the power. Like he has the power, but he doesn't. He just wants to. He just wants to be his own being.
Which, if we're to parallel to the real Robin Williams for a moment here, you could look at it as it's kind of like Robin Williams, the way he interacts and kind of gets to share things with people is kind of on the stage and kind of through his work, essentially, which is what the genie lives for. It's like for eons, I'm stuck in this little lamp, but when I get to come out, I get to socialize with these people and kind of make them laugh. And
there's a lot of Robin Williams like personality, like the whole. The 2 sides of him in the genie, I think, the sensitive side and the over the top character.
Yeah, it's the range of Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Little Ranger Williams for you.
It's like he does deliver the main message of the movie. Just like, all joking aside, you just got to be yourself.
Yeah,
it's an old cliche and an old one, but it does work for the sake of this story.
What's the fact you have that insanely silly character saying, "Oh, joking aside"? I see him saying, "Joking aside." Okay, this is serious. He's actually trying to convey something. All right, so Prince Ali,
another showstopper.
So in the presentation of the movie, Ashman from the beginning, he wanted to go for kind of like a 30s kind of flair to the music, which very much comes out in Prince Ali. It's very much kind of an old school, like kind of big band. Well, kind of big band. It's more of like a 30s jazz. It's kind of like a 30s jazz sort of thing. Point being, it's we put everything on the screen here, man. It's like the ultimate sales pitch for Prince Ali, blah blah.
Basically, he's like a big magical hype man.
Yes.
Yep.
Honestly, my favorite thing in the music between this and honestly, I think the Ashman songs particularly. I think the best songs in Aladdin. They just kind of they build and build and build to ridiculous, almost requiem-esque kind of. It's like a requiem of silly, one could say, where it's like all these all these amazing things and like at the very end of A Friend Like Me, it's the whole like. A wish or 2 or 3, Mr. Aladdin, sir. You have like that great jazzy kind of build up to the big finale, and you kind of have that here when they're crashing through the gates. Prince Ali, fabulous he. Also, Prince Ali, very much a love letter to Ethel Merman, which is hilarious.
Prince Abubu.
It's like, Robin, can you sing a song as Ethel Merman? Can I?
It's kind of funny because they're originally going for like a more Cab Calloway look with him.
Yeah, and it's funny. The Jeffrey Katzenberg. Obviously, this is very funny how this works out. Robin Williams, before he turned to Jeffrey Katzenberg, he would kind of placate to the boss here, and he would sing Prince Jeffrey, fabulous. He just kind of he basically improvised like a Prince Jeffrey thing, which of course is very ironic given how he became the punching bag on stage for Williams for a while.
Oh God.
All right.
Like it's like I love how like even the guards were getting into it. Like, we see the monkeys.
We see the monkeys.
He's got the monkeys. Let's see the monkeys.
Oh, I think my favorite bit is just Genie like, oh, look at him, June. I love the feathers.
Don't they look lovely, June? Fabulous, Harry. I love the feathers. And of course, this part where he dresses as the other girls, and she's like, "Prince Ali, handsome as he."
See, that's the full Ethel Merman. At the very least, that part of the song is
that
Prince Ali. Yes, it is he. Anyway,
handsome as he, Alibaba.
strong as I love when he's transformed between the kids. Has he got to? I'm telling you, it's a world class menagerie.
And of course, there's Iago dancing to the song at the beginning.
Or looking at him like, come on, man.
It's like even Iago is getting into it.
Yep. All right. So, should we talk about getting these two crazy kids together? Should we talk about a whole new world?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go over a couple comments here. Not too much.
While you do that, I'm gonna go get something to drink real quick.
Okay, for sure. See, Slasher Fred says there was a song for Jasmine called "I'm a Princess." I'm not familiar with that song.
I forget if that's the one. Tiki, do you know if that's the one they put into the live action one?
No, I'm pretty sure the one they put into the live action one was written like specifically for the live action.
Okay, so that was like a new song. That wasn't just like one of the.
And then the Jasmine song that I know is, of course, the one from the California Adventure version, "Little Bird in a Gilded Cage," which, of course, I'm 99% sure I saw Dee Dee Mango sing live. Just saying.
Now, to be fair, I mean, here's the thing. I do feel we have just the perfect amount and songs that we do have some not a miss among them.
Well, it's kind of like, because Jasmine, obviously, like, her song is pretty much part of your world, which we'll get to as soon as Jacob returns. But, it's kind of like the same reason why it'd be great to have a Jafar villain song, like a full song and not a reprise. But at the same time, like you said, it's like every song in the soundtrack is so, like, leans into each other so well. It's almost
every
like
song advances the story.
If you take away or add any song, I feel like it would ruin the flow.
Yeah, if we did the Jasmine song, all it would have done is restate. Okay, we have like this great silent thing with the birds. They fly out of the cage. We know everything we need to. We don't need her singing about my life is like these birds. I'm in a gilded cage. We just saw it. We don't need to sing about it.
Vince K says if the carpet had a voice, who would be the voice actor? That's a good question.
I think he plays so perfectly silently. I know Vince K is probably not saying that he doesn't, but yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I would throw out Nancy Cartwright, maybe?
Nah, come on.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
I think they'd give him probably a deep voice for the humor of it.
You see, I'm thinking Nancy Cartwright because I think it'd be more like a little kid's kind of voice. I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyways,
or Nick and Mulrad voice.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
And technically, right now, because he's silent, they could say it's any actor if they really wanted to.
Flasher Fred, that's absolutely correct. The street vendor at the beginning was originally going to be the genie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why the Nancy Cartwright thing sticks out to me. I don't know why.
Say like Steve Martin or something for the.
That could work.
Me? You want me to come? Hooray!
I'm not saying Nancy Cartwright would do her Bart Simpson voice, to be clear.
Right.
Like, anyways.
Anyway.
Let's see. So yeah, part of your world, of course, probably like one of, if not the best Disney romance songs. Again, much like how Jasmine and Rapunzel are kind of like in the battle. I feel like it's like this or At Last I See the Light.
Well, not part of your world, Tiki. That's Little Mermaid.
Oh, I'm sorry. God, you're right. A whole new world. You're sorry. Freaking worlds, Disney. Anyways, I think Disney did that intentionally so they could do Disney World commercials.
But yeah,
all the iconic Disney songs have to have world in the title.
The whole new world, very much the ultimate first date around the world, one could say.
Oh yeah.
Now, like I've actually managed to learn how to try and sing the obviously Aladdin side of it. I'm not gonna do it here. I'm not gonna do it here though.
Vincent K says, I think Dwight should play the carpet. No, not the actor that plays Dwight. Literally Dwight from The Office.
False.
All right. Steve would be a good in-joke since he was one of the Genie's runner-ups. Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let's see. All right, sorry, yeah. So so basically it's this really kind of lovely kind of like first date with them, and of course we have something that really I think plays in Jasmine's favor because you're thinking like with the relationship, how does she not know that this is Aladdin?
I think that is. Go ahead.
But remember, as far as she's concerned, he was said to have died, so it would that kind of like, almost like a weird reincarnation effect here. It's like, wait a minute, this guy looks so similar to the guy that was killed, and I was very upset about earlier in the movie.
So earlier, I forget who it was, but someone pointed out the plot hole of the genie knowing the pop culture references, and as far as I'm concerned, that's not a plot hole. That's just
it's like he's like a fifth dimensional imp. He can go
through
time.
Exactly.
The anachronisms, because it's the genie, it's fine.
It's magic.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think that the whole Jasmine not knowing who Aladdin is genuinely kind of a plot hole.
But again, he was said to, I can give her a break because at least he's supposed to have died, but then she does figure it out, to give her credit.
Remember, she does kind of con him into admitting it himself.
So that's the thing. Because of that, I can give it a break compared to years ago where we've been like, how the heck does she not know? It was like, okay, I can buy it.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's not really that much of a plot hole.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think it's mended over time, probably. But yeah.
Then.
Well, I'm just saying this movie does. It's one like every freaking '90s Disney Renaissance movie has a lot of like cinema sin style like ding plot holes.
Well, something to mention, less plot hole, more trope. But
yeah, cinema sins they call everything that they don't understand a plot hole, even if it's explained in the movie.
No, they call things that they do understand plot holes just to make a joke about it. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying people nitpick the plots like.
They have been funny in years.
So
I'd
wager to say they've never been funny, but
well, that's a fair point. That's a fair point too.
Right. So sorry. All right, so a trope that we have here that is kind of popular is I think this. I don't know necessarily I could say this is the original time we used the trope, but it's something I think we used it and we used it kind of effectively compared to where we use it ineffectively down the line. The liar reveal, for example, we use the liar reveal here majorly.
That's true. It pretty much is the liar revealed. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but again, oddly though, while it is a liar reveal, we do not dwell on it though. When we do reveal, think about it, because all the action's going on because of our pacing, so we don't have time to really dwell on, which is kind of a good thing. It's like you were lying about being a prince because it really doesn't matter. So it's like, okay, yeah, because that doesn't matter. They know it doesn't matter. It's like, well, we're going to distract all the actions going on.
And to be fair, she did kind of fall for him before the whole prince thing, anyway. So.
Exactly. So here's the thing.
I mean, and obviously the whole lying thing probably did put a sour on things, but
so it's less of a plot hole that Jasmine doesn't recognize, and it's more of a I don't even know if plot hole's the right term, but it's more of an issue that Aladdin doesn't have the sense to realize. Well, I think she's gonna dig you either way, man, because you did get along far before that, and it was mainly. But again, it's more of Aladdin. I think like a lot of us, there's a little self confidence issue.
Was it not just like a class thing? Like,
yeah, it's purely it's twofold. It's a class thing as far as Aladdin. Aladdin's issue is that it's a class thing in terms of she'd never go for a street rat. It's the whole self-deprecating thing. I think we all have.
So there was no issue of like, oh, I can't marry her because she's a princess and the law. That wasn't an issue.
I'm getting to that. On the flip side, so that's Aladdin's side. On the flip side, the law is that's so she can't marry someone who is not a prince. So that's the other issue. But Aladdin's not thinking of marriage really until he's then put into the prince situation where he learns that he wants to date her. He wants to meet her. Mm-hmm. And then it's like put forward like, hey, you're the prince. You're going to become sultan, which means you're going to marry her. It's like, oh, man, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
Not that he's opposed to it, but it's like, man, I don't know if I can be the boss of Agrabah. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
It's almost like he feels guilty about it. It's like it's obvious because the sultan says he's like a man of high moral character.
Yeah.
Basically. And that basically is like, wait a minute, I lied to get here.
Exactly. So that does kind of call into question that he feels bad about it, or Jafar does not feel bad about this at all.
And technically, even once the fallout happens, like even after a while, like Genie is quick to forgive him, like Abu and Carpet are quick to forgive Aladdin.
Yeah, I was saying in retrospect, I mean the Genie, I think over time he sees, okay, it could be far worse if Jafar's my new master compared to the kid who's like, at the very least, he's just following the pattern. Now, at least. I think we all understand where Aladdin's coming from in terms of honestly, okay, so this one actually is kind of a plot hole, to be fair. This one actually is one where in retrospect, you'd have to imagine if the genie were more explanatory about the rules. Like this lyric was not in the song earlier. That if I were to become free, well, he didn't put this in the song, but if I were to become free, I would still be around, so we could still hang out.
I know, right? Yeah.
But to be fair, again, I don't think he even knew how that worked himself because he's never been free before. So I don't. Who knows? So that one's more just that one's kind of that like the. Had he known that, then we would have avoided like the little fallout between the two of them. It's like
I think it's less plot hole and not really explained.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, maybe that's probably.
No, I agree that I think just because the word
ill-defined. Okay, it's ill-defined then. Let's go with that.
It's like people always like quick to call out plot hole for just something that's either not explained or just not important to the.
Well, yeah,
I hear you.
All right.
All right.
Like I said, even then, Genie's quick to rectify, quick to forgive Aladdin.
Okay, so one thing I want to get in there. I think possibly one of the best Disney kisses was animated in Aladdin during when the carpet does that really cool move where he lifts him up and it goes for like the surprise kiss. I want to get that in there because
And apparently people they even
hold on, Aladdin, consent, bro. I'm just kidding.
It was the carpet, man. The carpet.
I am just kidding.
and she was into it.
I know.
And actually probably would have done it anyway. So
yeah.
And apparently apparently if you look closely, there was like a tongue kiss too. So
yeah.
Oh, spicy.
I know, right?
I would make a joke about the whole the thing that people think they hear about.
No, don't.
Yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, now that's entirely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a whole anyway.
It's like okay, do that, and then okay, get it. And it's like you didn't even say anything close to that.
Okay, so the transition from high points of look at these two crazy kids. I know it's based on a lie, but look at it, it's beautiful. Flip side, let's talk about how sad Stallone Genie is.
Yes.
Just seeing how this thing always affected me as a kid. The genie, him being a huge scale and just being so depressed. Sorry, kid, I got a new master now. It's no, where's the joy?
You know what's great about it is, again, I do kind of feel like it sort of represents kind of the duality of Robin Williams. You know what I mean? It's like Robin Williams in some way. This is going to be really overthinking it, I know, and I apologize, but in some ways, the chains of his bondage when he's enslaved to Jafar represents the chains of his depression.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is kind of reaching.
Well, I mean, I think more so it is just more so we're seeing the downside of the servitude and slavery of the genie. So,
Chernabog genie, indeed, that is kind of the design.
Yeah.
It's he's definitely pulling a Chernabog vibe.
But seeing him so sad, and then of course Aladdin being blasted off, his old buddy being blasted off before him, and he's helpless to stop it. It's utterly. And then of course Jafar being so darn scary.
Tonight the role of Aladdin will be played by a tall, dark, sinister, ugly man.
Oh, by the way, that brings up one of the best gags in the movie. Okay, with kind of our fifth dimensional imp-esque kind of jokes of the genie and all the anachronisms. The best fourth wall joke we do have in this thing is Genie reading the script for Aladdin in the movie. Right. And this is where I wish the genie free.
It's like, what are you gonna do, Al? And then he's like, your line is, I'm going to free the genie. Anytime. Anytime.
That's an Eric Goldberg gag if I've ever seen one. I just love it.
No wonder he got to work on.
Are you sure this genie animation you're talking about is the 60s? Because honestly, it sounds like something that would be in a silly symphony or something. I don't know.
It's more I'd say more Looney Tunes-esque.
He says it reminds me of some vintage genie animation Disney did. Yeah, I wish I could help you on that.
All right, let's see. Okay, so point being, kind of our low of lows, Aladdin is kind of sent all the way to, again, fun reversal. We go from the deserts to the Arctic, which he's completely out of his element for.
After Jafar stole his theme song, of course.
Yes, which, by the way, and this is always this is not an issue. It's not a big problem or anything, but honestly, this one actually is a logistical thing. Always made me wonder from Aladdin, though. The magic being undone kind of bothered me. The fact of, okay, so Jafar becomes a sultan with the first wish, and then becomes a powerful sorcerer, which seemingly undoes the sultan thing, because I know we're just kind of going based off the costume change, where he's just basically kind of a very slightly different version of Jafar, I think.
Mhm.
In terms of the costume, I think it's like they inverted the colors or something. I think maybe
I do kind of like how he gave Iago a little Sultan hat, though.
that was great.
Uh,
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I wonder though. When he turned Aladdin back into a street rat, is that the magic completely undoing the genie wish, or is because when Aladdin at the end is saying he's no longer a prince?
I think that's just him reverting the costume.
That's the thing though. Wouldn't Aladdin still technically be well, I don't know, because he was never a prince, but he was kind of made a prince via magic, and I don't know.
well, I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like you have to look at the whole like why did Raja get turned into a kitten when him being a kitten wasn't ever part of the equation. Like,
Yeah.
I think what at the end of the day, what it boils down to is what I frankly wish that more people would do is stop taking these movies so damn seriously. It's a fairy tale. It's magic. It doesn't have to make logical sense.
Well, true, but literally like a plot point, the whole like I'm not a prince anymore. It's like, well, the problem is he didn't specifically say that. It's the whole like I'm not a prince. Well, no, you were a prince. We had a whole song about it. You were a prince.
I really do think it's just the
no, you're Tiki. Look, you're right. I'm just saying, it's like the one thought I have when I go back.
Yeah,
I wonder what the deal with that, or the logistics are that legally.
So I genuinely think the column that Aladdin has to like
Buster
go
Keaton.
through the window of.
He's got a Keaton it, man.
I genuinely think that might be the most impressive use of caps that Disney ever did.
It's rather impressive.
All right.
It's very kind of precursor to Somewhere in the Himalayas.
But funnily enough, it's kind
of
it
is, yeah.
It is kind of like they did say end of the earth, so it's like I don't know if that's like he's like into like one of the poles or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's in one of the poles.
Yeah, who knows? But either way, it's kind of like an old comedy gag of like falling through the hole, but this time it's actually an action set piece.
Yeah. So, our awesome climax in which the goal is steal the lamp back, and I think the intention was to use the final wish to defeat Jafar, and then of course it evolved into something far better. But when we basically assault Jafar for the lamp, let's talk about how pun crazy Jafar is because it's awesome.
Don't toy with me.
Your time's up.
Things are unraveling fast.
Let's all see how snake-like I can be.
I think you're missing the point, boy.
I'm just getting warmed up.
God.
Yeah, he is. He loves a good dad joke.
I just love that Jafar again. We see the madness come out of Jafar when he's all powerful.
In a way, it kind of adds to the menacing nature.
Let's talk about Jasmine's sacrifice. Forget the bread sacrifice we were going on about earlier. Let's talk about the real sacrifice. Jasmine has to kiss that ugly man.
Oh my god.
And he's gross. You saw his teeth. He's gross, man.
And even like Iago's like, ew.
Yeah, they're all.
Sure, his breath is awful.
Oh, God. She had to feed him. I think she had to feed him grapes and stuff.
Oh my god! Yes.
Like, ew.
I mean, they kind of go like the whole Princess Leia with this, with the red outfit and everything.
Yeah, it's a little slave Leia going on. Let me ask you this: can you think of another Disney movie where the villain gets the kiss?
Yeah,
not off the top of my head, no.
Right?
No, he got.
I mean, Frollo wanted it, but he didn't get it.
Yeah, obviously, Frollo wanted it.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness he didn't get it.
Vincent K's really hung up on the whole abusing his bird thing.
The closest Frollo got was the whole sniffing the hair thing, which is bad enough.
Yeah.
And
I think it's awesome they went that creepy with it, though.
Oh, I know, I do too.
It's like, yeah, they went there with it. Okay.
Like
the thing is, like, Jafar is actually a big legitimate threat. Like,
he is absolutely. I think Jafar always gets overshadowed. It's as great as Frollo, and again, Frollo is still top tier. By the same
Frollo
token, Jafar,
is the most evil Disney villain. Like, as far as like actual real world atrocities go.
Jafar is kind of a bargain, though. Jafar is kind of part Maleficent, part in terms of the magic and everything, and part Frollo in terms of the aesthetic.
Sure. I think what makes Frollo so memorable, though, is that he's so realistic.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why Frollo does, get to the top of the heap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like as far as like over the top and classic Disney villains, I mean, Jafar's like basically also top tier.
And Jafar turns into a giant, awesome snake, and we've been building it up too with like the snake staff and everything. And
like, can we just say like the transformation and like the way he just like instantly transformed into the snake, and then like the whole scale of it and everything? It's just like, oh my god,
it's great.
Oh,
It's just like some of the best, that's like some of the best animation I've ever seen.
That's the way we animate the snake to like stay out of us. Jafar, he's our man. If he can't do it,
Great!
It's like Rick and Rick, stick that sword into that snake. You stay out of this.
That's the thing. I mean, like Frollo, the first thing he does as a villain, he threatens to kill a deformed baby. Where Jafar, he turns into a giant snake and he gets stabbed, and it's awesome.
Well, the first thing we see him doing is sending a poor thief to his death.
Yeah, sandy death. That man asphyxiates on sand. It's dark, man.
Yeah, well, several people die in this movie.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, we glazed over something.
What?
Great moment in the film. Genie saves Aladdin when he's drowning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did glaze over that. You're
Which
right. Yeah.
is, again, that was a huge heartstrings moment for him. Where he says, "I'm fond of you, kid." Where you see just the utter friendship of those two characters.
I'm getting rather fond of you, kid.
Which, of course, it kind of
it's like that doesn't mean I'm going to pick out curtains or anything.
yeah. Which, of course, again, it has like this. Yeah.
And I did. Have you seen I love like one of the alternative lines that Robin did for that. It's like, I want to give you a CPR. I'm giving you a CPR, but I don't find you that attractive.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, but we have kind of like a three act sort of thing with the genie. Of course, Friend Like Me is the big glorious introduction with the genie and the friendship there, and then you have kind of the moment with the near drowning, and then you have, of course, the big goodbye scene. The big like the wish for the freedom. So speaking of which, of course, we take out Jafar. I think I love the comeuppance on Jafar. Is the fact this guy's lusting for power, and he wants that lamp ever since the beginning. He got the lamp, and essentially he wishes for the lamp in the the kind of ironic sense here, where it's Jafar's ego of always being second banana, which is why he wanted the sultancy. He wanted to become sultan. So yeah.
And of course, it's the power aspect is what he's drawn. That's what he's drawn to. He's drawn to the phenomenal cosmic power.
And he's looking all demonic and everything.
But he's completely done in by the itty bitty living space,
which is a phenomenal callback.
It's like which is
Al, you rascal!
Al,
you little genius.
Apparently, from what I've read, it's kind of interesting that he said he's like devilish and demonic. Apparently, in Islam, the devil is in fact a genie. So I don't know if that was actually intentional, but it's kind of like accident. If it's accidental, it's still pretty interesting.
It's like the whole jinn thing and kind of Miss Marvel. I think somewhat. At least I think it's somewhat removed from that. I think.
I mean, the jinn is what they really is. There are differences and similarities.
Well, I know. I'm saying,
and in mythology, sometimes genies can be these mischievous tricksters who take their words take the wisher's wish at face value and basically twist it to its literal means.
Yeah, like Norm the genie from Fairly Odd Parents. Yes, yeah.
You should have wished for an omelet on a plate.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about one of the most heartfelt scenes, of course, after losing Robin Williams is like the utter heart-wrenching stab in the heart. Let's talk about we wish the genie free.
Oh yeah, I mean it is the posthumous Robin Williams memorial scene for sure.
I'm free at last. And of course, wish, do something like wish for the Nile.
I wish for the Nile.
No way. It's like, that feels good.
I love he's just getting so hopped up on being free and everything. Then he kind of sees Al's gonna miss him. That's honestly deep down again fun to know that's why he wanted the genie around because he didn't want him to go anywhere. Which again, there's a moral there because obviously the big moral be yourself that's in the movie, but you also have the moral of you can't hold your friends back from what makes them happy. So it's the fact that Genie has this moment of just this truly heartfelt goodbye, and he says, "You'll always be a prince to me, Al," which is oh man.
And of course that inspires the Sultan to change the law.
Yeah.
It's like, am I the Sultan or am I the Sultan?
Last I checked, you're the Sultan, buddy. Change that law.
And he does.
He does. Takes him 3 movies, but he does.
He's actually quite progressive.
Yeah.
The Sultan was actually progressive for his time.
Yeah.
All right.
And of course, the genie, of course, brings everyone for a group hug. Mind if I kiss the monkey?
And he's in the Robin Williams did this promotional thing for Disney, I think, where he wore like the Hawaiian shirt and the Goofy hat. Which, by the way, I have that Goofy hat. I bought that hat because of
Oh,
Aladdin.
nice. That's like, honestly, I really like that Goofy hat a lot more than I like the mouse ears. I don't know. I've never been a fan of the mouse ears, honestly. That's one of the Disney things. Yeah, I've never like. And nowadays they're so like they become so like merchandised. Like obviously they've always been merchandised, but I'm just saying they have so many different like collectible varieties.
I have a random mouse ears question for you.
Okay.
Tiki, did you watch season 5 of Dexter?
Season 5? No.
Okay, so in season 5,
I quit watching like halfway through season 4.
Okay, here's my point. So in season 5, Dexter, he breaks the bad news about Rita to the kids who come back from Disney World, and they brought him.
No, that is season 4.
No.
Wait, no, it is season 5. Yeah, okay. No, I'm sorry. I do know what you're talking
I'm sorry.
about.
Last I checked, who's telling this story?
I'm sorry. I got season 4 and season 5 mixed up. I don't know why. My bad.
Point being, he breaks the bad news to him, and they brought him Mickey Mouse ears, and they put it on his head as he delivers the bad news.
Oh my god! Yes.
So he's delivering this heart-wrenching news while wearing Mickey Mouse ears.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Anyways, again, this shows you the decline in season 5 on Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so no, the Goofy hat definitely has its appeal, and especially it works great on the genie. I can't explain why. It looks really good on it.
It does.
It's
like
probably maybe because it fits his personality more than a Mickey hat would.
Yeah, because he is rather goofy and he's broad.
Uh-huh.
I'm out of here. I'm history. Wait, I'm mythology. I don't know what I don't care what I am. I'm free.
And then, of course, the iconic laughing, the moon or the sun.
And Genie literally breaks the fourth wall by ripping the reel open, saying, "I made you look."
And of course, we have Genie and we have Aladdin and Jasmine flying off into the moon.
Yeah,
into the distance, and then there's like he was, and you can actually see like the animation information on like animated to the lower corner,
like the background that says like I think it earmarks like background like 240 or whatever is like listed number.
Yep, made you look.
Made you look.
Yep.
Oh God. What a ride.
Okay. So yeah, we actually got through that.
We skipped a lot, but we kind of needed to.
It's all good. All right.
ZNK says I never got that made you look joke, honestly. That's what
actually, when you think about it, yeah, it's what is he making you look at? I that is a good point.
I think it's like just the whole the reel breaking, perhaps. I don't know.
All right. Anyways, so yeah, any final thoughts, guys? I mean, we've said a lot about this movie.
Vincent K, like my final last time is justice for Iago.
Justice for the Boyd.
It is kind of sad. It is kind of weird considering Iago was kind of pulled into the lamp with Jafar.
Yeah, but he's gonna get his own movie though, so it all times out. It all works.
That is true. So,
yep.
Like, the final thoughts, guys. I mean, I guess I could go first.
Yeah, go first. Go on.
Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have as much nostalgia as you guys do for this, but that doesn't mean I don't have any at all. And I really enjoy the movie, and I've watched it many times over the years. And rewatching it has always been a treat for me. It's like it's definitely one of like the high points of their definitely their 2D era, like definitely of the Renaissance. It's like, and even probably one of the best of the entire crop. It's always a delight to watch. I always laugh, even if I know it's coming. I can always like hey, look at that, that's hilarious. So it's like, oh, or so like, oh, that's what even all the references. I'm like, oh, that's what that reference was. Like, there's always something interesting to see in this movie, and I can always appreciate that. Here's to 30 years, Aladdin.
Dragon.
All right. I guess just to kind of sum things up a bit here. I mean, what better way to epitomize Disney magic than with Aladdin, when you think about it, going through all the Disney films. I mean, this film really was very simply, it was Disney magic at its finest, and it's still iconic 30 years later. And it's just simply a testament to getting kind of the stars aligning and finding, one could say, a diamond in the rough in terms of the cast, crew, and of course the wonderful, the wonderful animators that help make this thing, just sing and be wonderful as it is and still remains to be.
All right, yeah, I think you guys put it best. I don't really have anything to add. It's just a pretty much flawless movie from a pacing point of view, from an animation point of view, color palette, songs, everything just works perfectly well. It's just a perfect palette of a movie.
One could say it's a wish come true.
Indeed. There might be a few Disney movies that I have ranked over it just on a personal level, but it's definitely one of the most objectively perfect for sure. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to run down the list of commenters. We have Sonia, Z&K Channel, Atomic Beast, Vincent K, and Slasher Fred. Guys, this has been a really robust comment section. Really appreciate it. We should do some more stuff like this on the channel.
And what you guys
not necessarily for anniversaries, but just, I don't know. I think we should be talking like more classic Disney type stuff. Just throw it out there. Clearly there's an audience for it. So,
and would you guys say this is Musker and Clements' best movie?
Well, I technically have Treasure Planet ranked above it, so I can't in all good consciousness say that.
Well, I guess it is Trevor. Got you ranked Treasure Planet above this.
Right. Like I did go through that whole process of ranking every movie, so I don't want to just renege on that.
Well, it's like, let's see, because they did obviously they did The Great Mouse Detective. They did, obviously, Little Mermaid, this, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, and Moana.
This is probably objectively their best movie. I just have Treasure Planet ranked as number one because I love the fact that it's so clearly a passion project. But anyways.
All right. Yeah, I can see that.
All right.
And obviously Dragons is number one, so.
Yeah.
Okay, this whole outro is taking like 5 minutes. This is a long podcast. It's all good.
Sorry.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. See y'all later.
You like Aladdin or Laddie?
Made you look.
Come here, Laddie.
Made you look.